Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm. Mm. Oh, that's
recording. Okay. Aloha again. Super excited to have you guys all on with me. Oh, Kyle wants me to put headphones on. Sorry, just getting ready. How are you guys? It's good to see some of your beautiful faces. I want to make my face at the top. How do I do that? I'm like Zoom retarded right now. Manage participants. Just give everybody a few more minutes to jump on here.
You should be able to just click on the gallery mode or like speaker view or.
I know, that's what I was looking for. I totally gallery view. That's better. Okay, wonderful. All right, so good. Awesome. Hi, Jen. How are you, sister?
I'm good.
Good. It's good to see you. Awesome. Oh, hi. Here's everyone. Hi, Conchetta. Girl. Hey, Melina. I feel like I just talked to you. Oh, because I did. Hey, Ange. And Ange. We got Ange squared on today. Oh, it's so good to see you guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Hey, Chrissy. Chrissy Boya. Awesome. And Darrell. And Chris and Gary Kirschbaum. Hello. And Kareen. Hold on. I don't know you. I don't want to butcher your name. Kareen Dosti or Karen. Is it a really cool way to say it? Which is it?
I'm in the American team.
Beautiful. And how do you say your name?
Karim. I'm French Canadian.
Karine. I wasn't saying it right even the first two times. Beautiful. I'm so happy to have you on. It's nice to meet you. It's wonderful that you're joining us. So I want to, be conscious of everybody's time today. I know there's different people that'll be jumping on. Oh, hi, Meredith. Hey, beautiful. So good to see you guys. I think I got to say hi to everyone who's on live right now. I know a lot of you are out working. I got messages back that said I'll catch the recording. So let me just jump right in. Oh, hey, Kyle. Welcome. Good to see you. Kyle's in our bedroom next door. Okay, so I felt really, really inspired to gather all of you together again. It's been a while. I think, Kyle and I used to do our Diamonds and Above Mastermind call monthly, and we used to love, Kyle would come prepared with amazing PowerPoint presentations and, he would just knock everybody's socks off with all of his info. And anyway, and then we just, started feeling like maybe we needed to shift and, allow you guys to do your own diamond calls. And maybe it's like too many calls all the time. But then we really missed you. And I realized 2 weeks ago, we had a presidential diamond call. It was actually just for the US. So if you were Canadian, like, don't feel bad. It was just, they needed to talk to some of the US market, presidentials. But what happened for me in that call is I realized the value of having a high level mastermind where it is a safe space for everyone to talk about what's really going on. Like, what are you really experiencing? What is really working? What is not working? Not a space to like just complain about all the things that suck, you know what I mean? But really, truly being the people who are innovating, who are pivoting, who are recognizing like quickly, like, being an entrepreneur who is like, okay, I got it. Like, I'm getting the messages. Everyone else is getting the same message. We're all in this together, and we're all going to be the leaders that lead doTERRA, that lead our teams into the future. So I wanted to gather you guys for that and give you some of the insights of what Kyle and I are experiencing. And I've invited to Melina to share as well what she's experiencing. So just want to touch on kind of some of the obvious stuff that I think that I've been experiencing, and that is doTERRA is over 10 years old, right? You don't have to raise your hand, but I want you to think about the last thing that you have committed to for 10 years. Now, I recognize that not all of you have been, in doTERRA for 10 years. However, the company has been around for 10 years. So what's the last thing you've actually stuck with for 10 years? Like, for me, a marriage. Yes. Okay. A marriage. For some of us, a religion. For some of us, not a religion, right? For some of us, not a marriage. For some of us, maybe like a yoga practice. Kyle says, Kyle says fantasy football, and Anne says Starbucks. Great. But are there a lot of things that you have stuck with consistently for 10 years? I mean, as a whole, I would say as a whole, our group of leaders are people who actually do stay consistent with something. Most people don't. And maybe some of you have even experienced that transition in your teams where you are like, what do you mean you're gonna go do something else? Like, aren't we all lifers in doTERRA? Like, what do you mean you hit gold and now you're just like, you're good? Like, you actually are not motivated to do more. What? Like, for us as diamonds, we're like mind blown. This is like, what? How do you stop? This doesn't make sense. But for some people, they do, right? And I personally have had this. I think individually, you guys have had this as well. Maybe if you're brand new, maybe not as much, but it's interesting to observe some of our leaders who have decided that, like, gold is good. And if we're talking about what we pitch to people as far as like the lifestyle, $4,000 or $5,000 a month is good. Actually, you know what I mean? And so interesting to kind of like watch that and then get really, really frustrated because you're like, no, I'm going for presidential. Don't you understand? Like, you have to be platinum. Like, you have to. And I have to find it within me to like force you to do it, and there's some leadership for you, right? Like, there's some innovative leadership, like, you will be platinum, all the feelings around that. And I think that most of you are experiencing that. And so I just wanted to give you like a voice and permission to realize, like, wow, some of our leaders decide they're good where they're at. Some of them decide they actually don't even want to do this anymore. Some of them are like gung-ho, we're totally doing it. And in my experience in speaking with all of you, most of you individually, you've got your, a couple are like ride or die. You're just like so grateful for like the couple of people that are like so solid. And then you've got your other ones that you're learning your lessons with, right? Like your lessons of like humility and just like innovation and all of those things. And it's interesting to experience doTERRA in this way and also appreciate it. Like, appreciate that we don't just have like all of these frontline leaders that are like just rocking it on their own, and if you do, then cool, then that's great too, right? But I think most people don't. I think most people are in it to experience both sides of this coin. And I personally, I can say this, you know, with full confidence now, right? When I was in it, maybe not so much, but I can honestly tell you that the strength and the character that is built, and like the ideas that must be born because you have to figure it out, are like some of the most amazing character building traits that, like, I don't think any of us would give up, you know, although it's really hard. Those hard times like really force you to like dig deep, right? So that is part of like what I'm seeing in doTERRA as far as like growth patterns and commitment levels and those things. And there's so much more to be learned from that. So I'm going to turn the time. I'd like to actually have, yeah, Meredith says it's a personal growth program. Exactly. And you know, like the personal growth program that we get paid for, and we all want to get paid a lot more for it, right? We're all like, yay, a personal growth program. I want to double my income. Tell me how to freaking do it. Like, I know that's where you guys are all at right now. Like, so I have really, really good ideas that are going to come from Melina and also from Kyle. And then I really felt like the value of the call that I was on with the presidentials a couple of weeks ago was when we turned it over to the group as well, like to hear from you. What are you excited about? What are you experiencing? I'm going to be taking notes, like what can I, you know, and Melina and Kyle, like as your leadership team, take back to corporate for you. You know what I mean? And I know you guys are all connected to corporate as well. I mean, it's not like you need us to do that for you, but I know sometimes just giving like that same message from the top leaders, like over and over, you know, like we want to be those innovators. We want to help corporate help us, so to speak, right? And we want to really be that group that shows up like in all levels, where we are the ones that are coming up with the solutions too, and bringing those solutions to people in this really excited, innovative, exciting way. So I think I said excited like 7 times, just barely. I'm excited. I'm excited to showcase Melina. Your hair looks beautiful. I mean, you really got dolled up for this Diamonds call, didn't you? Awesome. I'm excited to hear from you. Thank you so much for being on with us.
So do you want me to go next?
Yeah, I want to hear from you. Tell me.
I did some photos today. So I did my hair today, specifically for you guys. Can you hear me well? Because I don't have the cord for my microphone, so I can put on. You guys can hear? Okay.
It looks great and it sounds great.
Okay. So there's a couple thoughts that I had. Kirsten emailed me about a week ago, just kind of the state of where doTERRA is now. And we are transitioning. And I think this is a really key time where we want to learn how to pivot, because we all can go through like tons of companies that as times changed, they didn't change. And so they got left in the dust. Like Kodak was one of those, right? They're like, oh no, we're in film. We're in film. We're not in digital prints or whatever, digital imaging. They could have been on the forefront forever, but they didn't pivot. So I think that's something that is important for us to look at. doTERRA has changed in the last even 5 years, for those of you that have not been around for 10 years. And it used to be more of a rare commodity to find someone that was really educated in essential oils. And I remember I could, you know, back in Vegas 9 years ago, have a class every week and people would come to it. Here in like 10 minutes away from doTERRA, to have a class every week and have people come to it is a little bit different. A lot of times it's people in other people's teams or people that have already been in doTERRA for years. So it is a little bit different. And I think there's so much information out there, and the people that were actually actively looking for this solution have found it. So I think we have to be more creative on how we're contacting people. We still do the same basic things of contacting and following up, but I think you need to pivot a little bit on what your brand is, because you're just talking oils, oils, oils. You're just a lot of noise that everybody else is saying as well. So for example, I'll use Kirsten as a really good example right now. She's pivoted to the Power Mom empire, and she's looking to attract, and if you look at the demographics, these are moms who want to build businesses, and to be able to offer things outside of just oils, but kind of infuse them with the oils, that's going to stand out to someone's attention more than just speaking oils and oils and oils. But if it's like, oh, I've got some tools to help you build your business, and that's moms from all different types of businesses. But I know even in like the network marketing world, people that are, they like the idea of network marketing. They like the idea of being a mom that can work from home, but they don't quite know how to do it. And they probably haven't really found the right company or know how to start. So I think that's a huge way that she's not taking away from what she's doing, but she's pivoting to attract a whole new market. And you can look at, Ange is on here. Ange has the Whole Fit brand. So she's not just talking, if you look at the stuff she does, it's not just oils and oils and oils. There's recipes and lifestyle stuff and skin glowing, like productivity, lots of different things like that. The Bibbins are focusing on doctors and the medical field. I know there's a lot of people here, like Krista focuses on dogs or horses. I've got people on my team that, are just, all they talk about is autism. They're moms of autism. And can you imagine if you were a mom with that struggle, how that would draw you in? So I want you to think, what is it that you're passionate about, that you love doing? You don't have to have some specific degree, but maybe you love gardening. So if you can teach people how to garden without pesticides, or homesteading. I was just in Boulder with another Blue Diamond last week, and she is a retired CPA because of doTERRA. And so I was talking to her about, like, well, why don't you create this Freedom Over 50 where you're talking to people about how to plan their retirement? Or, like, obviously it fits into doTERRA, so we're not going to do something completely different, but it's bringing in a different voice that people can find you through. So I about a year and a half ago started transitioning, kind of figuring out, like, what is it that I do? I don't necessarily just want to talk to moms. And so I have the Well-Oiled Entrepreneur because I had to up-level where I was coming from. So I'm going to talk about two different things. So one part is kind of finding your brand that fits into doTERRA and you can fit oils into, but it's not just doTERRA, it's not just essential oils. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? And then the other part is really raising your lid, because I think that's another thing that stops us, because we all kind of got in, we had our passion, we had our why, and many of us have reached that why, and then we're like, okay, well, this is good, I'm comfortable. And I remember, I hustled for 4 or 5 years in the beginning, and I used really just personal grit and drive and why and passion, and hit Presidential Diamond. And then I've been here for 5 years, and there was some rebuilding and there's some things that happened, but honestly what really happened was I kind of reached the edge of my comfort zone. Like, I've done what I know how to do, and I kind of hit that lid. So I remember for the beginning, there was a couple years that I'm like, okay, I want to focus on my brand new baby. So I did that intentionally. But about 2 years ago, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's hit it again. I'm going to do this again. And this time it's going to be easier because I know what I'm doing. I have the financial resources. And it wasn't easier. And some people can talk to you about that. But a couple of reasons why is I didn't have the same drive. Before, when I had to show up, if somebody was halfway committed, I was showing up, I was like breathing life into them as much as possible, whether they were showing up or not, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to feed my family. Now, if I don't show up, like, things are still good. Like, I can look at my unilevel check and I'm like, if I hit silver, I'd be okay. Like, not that I would ever hit silver, but does that make sense? It just kind of changes. So I was at a mastermind that Deb Erickson was at last week, and I just wanted to take like 3 minutes to go through an exercise with you as my dog enters and my husband brings me food.
Hi, Duke.
I just want to go through just a quick exercise with you. So I want you to get out a piece of paper if you don't have one already. And I want you to kind of draw a line down the middle. And on one side, I want you to kind of, and I'm going to explain this to you. You might want to take some time after the call to go through it more in depth. I just don't want to take up too much time because I know there's a lot of great content that the Kirschbaums have for you. But I want you to write, like, your what. What is it that your next level is? What is your next goal? And underneath that, I want you to scale yourself kind of on a 1 to 10 level. How passionate do you feel about that what? Like, how committed are you to that? Is it kind of like, oh, I should hit gold or I should hit blue diamond because it's the next step? Or is it like you're passionate about that? The next to the what, I want you to write why. Why are you passionate about that goal? As well as scale that from 1 to 10, like how passionate are you about that why, that reason? And then I want you to write next to it, like I can, your belief. So a lot of times we have some great goals and we have a very deep why, but if we don't really believe in it, then we tend to go through motions. We don't actually show up fully because we don't feel like it's going to make a difference. So scale your belief from 1 to 10. And there's 2 more. So the next one is your determination. And this is kind of like hell or high water, you're going to do this. And I remember feeling that determination in the early days, right? Where it's like, if I don't do this, we're going to lose everything. Or it's basically like Cortez is a good example. When he went to take over the islands, there's a saying, he burned the boats because nobody had ever successfully conquered these areas. And so by having the men and the crew burn the boats, it gave them no other option. Like the only option is to do what they had set out to do. So kind of on your commitment level. And I had an example shared with me, I'll just use Darrell for an example. Darrell, let's say that I was like, okay, Darrell, how committed are you to hitting presidential by the end of the year? Like, give me a scale of 1 to 10. Like, how committed are you to that? You can even show me your fingers.
2.
A 2, okay. So what if I'm like, well, I kidnapped Evan and he's gonna die if you don't hit presidential by the end of the year. How committed would you be to hitting presidential by the end of the year?
I'm 20.
Yes. And I guarantee you would hit it. You would hit it in September. You could hit it in August, if you had like that on the line. Now, granted, thankfully nobody's kidnapping our children. I'm just saying, like, your commitment level will get you whatever result you want if you're committed to that. So I kind of want to know, like.
But seriously though, are you going to kidnap our kids, Melina?
I mean, if you need me to, I could. I might even leave them at the park and forget about them.
I want you to kidnap some of my kids. So just
I think one right now you could definitely take.
I had one of my frontline leaders leave one of my children at a park for a while. Kyle. Anyways.
We have 5. So you have 4. I mean, there's plenty, Yeah,
we've got some to spare. But I just wanted to give you that concept, right, of like, if you were really committed, you would make it happen. There's no question about it. You would find whatever you needed to do to make it happen. And then the last one is kind of deserve. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you deserve it? Because oftentimes we kind of feel like, I mean, who am I? I'm just a mom. I didn't even have a college degree. How am I supposed to lead people or whatever? And you start comparing your people to other people or comparing yourself to other people. Or maybe you've got money blocks. Maybe there's just so much. Like specifically with women are marketed to differently their entire lives with the message of you're not enough. You have to be skinnier, prettier, sexier, better mom, whatever. So sometimes we have these things, and if you don't believe you deserve it, then you're going to be sabotaging yourself a lot because your conscious mind actually controls about 3 to 5% of what you do. So if we've got some subconscious stuff going on, then that's going to get in the way. So on the other side of the page, I want you to kind of look at your fear. What are you afraid of? What stands in your way of doing that what? And, there's a lot of things, but we could share some of our fears forever. And then I want you to put on a scale of 1 to 10 how strongly you feel that fear. I know I was talking to a presidential diamond on the Danube River when we were having dinner with Emily Wright, and she was laughing about how she was so terrified of giving a live presentation. She practiced it like 30 times. She memorized it. She literally, she spent a whole month practicing, and she still threw up the night of the class. She threw up before and after. And now she can do classes and she's comfortable. And the funny thing was, Emily's like, oh, we need to have you talk about that story from stage. And she just went pale. She was like, no. So it might be just public speaking or getting up in front of people. And I want you to now look at your page. And so we've got the fear on one side, and then we kind of have our motivating factors on the other side. And I want to tell you that if your fear is higher than some of those motivating factors, you are not going to be very successful. So I think you have to go and work on some of those motivating factors. If you don't have belief in yourself anymore, maybe you thought you could do this a couple years ago, but now you're not a social media influencer, so you can't, then you need to work on that belief so that you are showing up to do things. And you want your beliefs to be 8 or above, right? It's okay if you have fears that are high, as long as you have beliefs and motivation that's just as high, if not higher. Does that make sense? So that's something that I think ultimately, if we don't get set in the right way, then we can set goals, we can have these plans, and we're not going to follow through on them. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is I think now more than ever, as kind of the face of doTERRA, the model that we're in is changing a little bit. I don't mean the network marketing model, but I mean the type of person that is now coming into doTERRA is a little bit different. And in some ways, it's a lot better because there's a lot more awareness. We don't have so many people going like, what? Oils? I take prescription medications, right? People are open to it now more than ever. It's such an easier hurdle, but it's no longer a rare commodity for people. And so they'll be quicker to try, but it's kind of like a trend that they're hopping on, and they'll hop right off really quickly if we don't have proper processes in place to follow up with people. So I did a program with my top 3 levels, and I'll be rolling it out to everybody next month. But it really went with your processes, because what I had to do the last 2 years is actually learn how to run a business. Nobody ever taught me that. So I studied a lot of business stuff, and one thing that I found was that I was doing a lot of things manually, just kind of like, yeah, I'm just grunting it out. And why am I doing that? I don't know. So I went through a lot of people and asked, okay, what's your process? From the point that you meet somebody until they enroll, what does that look like? And then what does it look like from the point they say they want to share on? And what about when they want to build? What does that look like? And similar to me, like some people kind of had stuff in their head, but for the most part, they're just winging it, kind of going along the way. And then also for the most part, if everything you do or you intend to do needs you to do it, I think people do about 15% of what they intend to do. Like we think we're going to do all those follow-ups, and then, you forgot about them, or you put somebody in your phone at the park, and then 3 weeks later you're like, who is this? I don't know who this is in my phone. I mean, how many of you guys have done that? Or you have a drawer full of like business cards and sticky notes and people's information that you've never followed up on. So I don't think there's a lack of contacting. I think there's a lack of process. So I would like you to look at your process from the point of contact, whether you meet somebody online or in person or at an event or whatever, until they enroll. What does that look like for you? Map it out and look at what you can automate. Because if, like I said, if it's all falling on you, then a lot of things are going to fall through the cracks. So I have a couple things I implemented. Like when I meet somebody, I don't save them as a contact in my phone. I put them into a little form that automatically, once I push send, they get an email with a video from me saying, hey, it was great connecting. And then I lead them through a whole series of things that I do. When somebody says that they want to share, what does that look like? What do you plug them into? How are you supporting them in a way that they stay excited and passionate, but it's simple for them and they're not getting overwhelmed with all the things, right? When somebody says that they want to build, what does your mentoring process look like? How are you getting them the proper training so that they're structuring correctly? Because we do have a window period. We have a window period where people are excited to implement this into their lives as a lifestyle. And if we don't capitalize on that and give them proper education, then it's easy for them to check out. We have a window period where somebody wants to share, And if they do really well, they generally tend to start building. But if they kind of casually share and it's not that exciting, they didn't invite well, or they didn't have a successful event, then they probably aren't going to continue to do that. There's no motivation for them to do that. And if they're, wanting to build, it's the same thing. There's people don't stay super committed to building month after month after month if they're not having success. So I would really just challenge you to look at those processes and see what you can put in place so that you can always be supporting people, but at the same time, you can do it in a way that allows you to take care of yourself too. Because as your team grows bigger and bigger, if you don't have things in place, you will be burnt out. And that's like the worst thing that can happen to your business. You have to take time to rejuvenate and to refresh and harness that creativity that Kirsten was talking about, like where those ideas are born from, because you're really focusing on that instead of having those days where, I don't know if you guys ever go through this, you're like, nobody say the D word to me anymore. It's noon and I'm done with doTERRA for the day at least, right? So that's really what I had to share. And I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have a full page of notes, and I just want to really commend you for the way you have really learned. Like I've seen you over the last 2 years, Melina, like recognize what you didn't know and like go and find it. You know what I mean? Like you're very good at that, and you've spent a lot of time and effort and travel and expense to go and become that leader that is leading your entire team into the next decade of doTERRA. I'm so grateful for you, and like
Thank you.
grateful to follow you.
I think like all of you guys have gotten to is a place where you might have been like, okay, what I knew how to do, I've done. So it's the new level, new devil theory. And Kirsten's done the same thing, and Kyle's done the same thing. Like you guys are, and I mean, I've seen Meredith and Jules, everybody, you're developing yourself to go to that new level every time. And I think that that's really one of the key factors in continuing to pivot and moving forward. So thank you for letting me be on the call and share a little piece.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're a great leader. And I think, yeah, we're all doing that, right? Like, that's why I wanted us to all be on together, is like, we're all learning. We're all admitting like, hey, my name's Kirsten. I don't know everything. You know what I mean? Like I thought I did. And like, now, but I can tell you 100%, I'm so committed to learning. Like we're all committed to learning. Like we all love doTERRA. We don't want to go anywhere. We're just kind of like, we're going to be here and we're going to pivot and innovate together in this space, because we know this company is blessed and like is truly making a huge, huge difference around the world currently, right? There's also so much good that's continuing to happen. And as leaders, we want to just be on the forefront of that. So our next guest is probably my favorite person in the world most days. And I want to introduce Kyle, and he is somebody who, again, is always committed to learning. The guy always, those headphones, like, I mean, you can ask Melina, the entire summer, the guy had at least one headphone on his ear learning. Yes, that's his norm. One headphone going on where he is continuously learning about like what's going on in the market, what can he bring as value. He's somebody who really spends a lot of time to bring a lot of value to the group. So excited to have him teach you, and I'll turn it over to him.
Well, I just, thanks Kirsten and Melina. So amazing.
Ooh, sorry.
Oh, if you can unmute me.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Okay. No worries. Yeah. So thank you. And thank you, Melina. I just wanted to kind of open it up real quick. I feel like when I'm on a call for more than about 30 minutes and I don't have a chance to speak, or I'm just kind of absorbing, my brain starts to kind of shut down a little bit. And so I just kind of wanted to, if you guys want to type it in the comments, please do. But I think it's obvious to say, like, and this is what I loved about Kirsten's motivation for having this call. She was on a call with a bunch of presidentials who are expressing all the same frustrations that we all are, right? Like when we launch someone, for the most part, maybe they don't progress as quickly as they used to. When we have a class, people don't show up like they used to, right? I have a leader who doesn't want to do doTERRA anymore. Just all of these really honest things. And what I loved about the way you positioned it was a bunch of really high-level leaders who all love doTERRA, who are all tied to the cause and mission, and are not expressing the reasons why they're not going to do it. They're expressing the challenges, and then also giving solutions. Like, here's what we're doing to overcome that. Here's the skill that we learned to overcome that. And this is how we're showing our continued commitment to forward this mission. So before I share about this really cool subject on how to recruit influencers, which is from a podcast that I just listened to, and it's really amazing, and you guys are really going to love it because it's practical. If you know me, I love practical. I love statistics. I love something that I can feel like I can actually go do. So I'm going to share that, but I wanted to open up from you guys. What is, if you want to present a challenge that you face and a solution that you have tried to implement to overcome that. I'd love to kind of take a couple people. If you don't have a solution to your problem, I actually want you to hold off on sharing it. I actually, and if nobody shares, then I guess we'll start with the first person who has the problem. But do any of you guys have a problem, like one of these topics that we talked about, and you're kind of working on a solution, and it's kind of working or doing something in your organization? Anybody want to go? Yeah, please. Yeah, please, Jules. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for having this, guys. This is great. Feels nice to be with all of you, so thank you. This didn't come up, but we've had an issue for about a year, maybe more, of a leader that just sort of went rogue. She went rogue on her team, it became very difficult. All of that fell on us. We started managing her leaders just to kind of keep things together. And the solution that we created, and then it kind of came around full circle, is we sort of cut her off in a very loving way, but we kind of cut her out of the inner circle because it was just drama every time, she showed up. And it was a big move for Meredith and I, to do that and say, okay, this is the choice and we just need to stick to it. We ended up putting up another leg, shifting gears and focusing on that seventh leg. And it was interesting because I would check in with her maybe once a month, because this went on for about maybe 5 or 6 months, and see how she responded. And then I would gauge it, and it was nope, the drama's still there. It's not time yet. And then something happened where the drama seemed to have lifted, and I felt like it was time. But instead of just going back in with the three of us, we put together a mediation call with her frontline leaders. And we held space for all of us to come together and share what had gone on for them, over the past year, so that she could, hear the feedback and receive it. And we just kind of held space for, I guess there was 3, 4, 6 of us on the call. And it was so healing. It was so incredible. She ended up choosing to jump into Diamond Club, and, the whole team got behind her. And we've just created a space on Voxer for all of us, so that everybody's in communication and using, I don't know if you know Voxer, it's a walkie-talkie app. It's fantastic. So it's we have our own little private office. We don't have to disrupt anybody else on the team. It's just our own, we call it Diamond Club 2.0, because this is the second time that she's doing it. And what's really worked is, I think, one, doing almost a truth and reconciliation with the team. I think they had a lot of things that they needed to say and share with her, and she was in a place to receive it. And Meredith and I were able to hold that space. And now Diamond Club is working for her. She's kicking butt right now, and she's so motivated. And this team is probably the most cohesive leg that we have right now, which is so interesting. And I just feel it was because we cut her off. And then when we let her back in, we decided to create new patterns and create some communication. So
I love it. Wow. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share a problem, whether it's around enrolling new people, classes, or any of those things, and a solution that they have come up with? Anyone else?
We did something just recently, about 2 weeks ago now, and I actually met with one of the top income earners in a different network marketing company. He's frontline to Byron Nelson, if you know him, from LA, and he lives super close to me. So we actually went for coffee, and I kind of was picking his brain about, because we're totally different companies, totally different systems, and culture is totally different. And so I went and met with him, and I kind of had some nuggets that sort of came out of that meeting. And one of the things that have been really heavy for me lately, probably for the last 3 months, and then funny enough, I saw Ange post about it about a month ago, just asking if there was an app that would remove inactive people from groups. And it was funny because this has been sitting on my mind for the last 2 or 3 months, just because my educators group is just filled with people who no longer build, the energy is stagnant, people who have either just decided to not even, they don't even do their $100 LRP anymore. Some people that would be invited in from other teams, so I was sort of asking him what their process was like for onboarding. And he's literally like, and we're talking his direct upline makes millions and millions, and, has millions of people on his team. And he said, I literally take out a piece of paper and I'm like, this is your ticket to $1 million. If you can figure out this, like if we can do the things on this one sheet, then you're good. And I'm like, so you don't have units? You don't have training? He's like, what is a Facebook unit? Like, didn't even know what it was. And so it kind of gave me this click, because within the last year, the systems have been on overload, right? Like we've had these beautiful, beautifully designed systems. And I know you guys were a part of all of it. And I'm a systems person. I'm like a handout queen. I love all that stuff. And I know I just went crazy with my team on all of it. But it made me also think about the people that get super overwhelmed by having to learn everything. And so I went back and I actually recreated a duplicate of my team group, like same name, same cover photo, and did a video, including in that video the people, the access to the new group. And we had only 71 people come over to the new group, which was probably the only 71 people that are actually selling the oils, right? And that are engaged and that would even have seen the post that I posted. And we kind of had this clean sweep and just this merge over to this new space. And since we got into this new space, I had, instead of 60 things in the file section that have been there since 2015 when I started doTERRA, we have 7 things in there. It's like power of 3, plan to rank sheet, and then your just the basic things we need: live, share, build guide, healthy can be simple guide, and that's it. And then in the unit section, it's 1 unit, and it just has video, like easy, quick access links to, what is an essential oil and stuff. And when we did this merge over and the 71 people came out of the hundreds that had been in this previous educators group and the builders group, this new energy just changed everything. And I feel less overwhelmed now. I felt I didn't even want to bring somebody into the business, because I'm like, it's going to stress me out mentoring them and onboarding them, because I don't even know what the process is anymore, because I've probably created 20,000 of them since I started. And so, and then doTERRA came out with more, et cetera, et cetera. So it was just like this clean energy. And I've been feeling like I've been going in live more often, and people are just really receptive. And, we're just kind of going back to the basics. And so that has been a huge shift, because it was energy. We were giving value, but then you only have like 10% engaging, and it was this energy thing. And so that was a huge change for us, especially in this season when things are a little bit slower. So yeah, that really worked for us.
I love it. I think that there's kind of a theme that, I always like to look at things as cycles, right? And we're kind of in this timeline in doTERRA where if you want to thrive right now, it requires of a gathering of smaller groups again, right? Like we got really, really big and like almost kind of uncontrollable, and like we felt lost and like all this. And now it's kind of like this returning to, hey, here's what I'm doing. If you want to be a part of it, please come join me. If you don't, then don't, right? And it's almost like this, we're not calling everyone out, it's not, but we're resharing the vision and allowing that vision to filter all of the people out that don't want in, right? And sometimes we get nervous to do this because we feel like we're going to cut people off. When in all reality, what it does is it just reestablishes the bar. And then those people who want to come to the bar, they will come to the bar. And the ones that don't will just kind of, filter away. But now you're not dragging this huge bag of rocks, right? You're running with people that are carrying, I guess for the analogy, they're carrying rocks with you. But that's kind of the point. So I think that this is it. And I've seen other leaders, in this group post stuff like this also, right? Filtering down. I think this is really, really key. Like getting lean, getting really agile, and increasing engagement. And that often requires letting go of certain things. So I love that. We'll take one more, and then I want to go through this recruiter influencing thing. Anyone else want to share? Okay. Please interrupt me if you do want to share. I just want to talk about real quickly two things. One of the things that Kirsten and I saw probably about 2 years ago was our unilevel went flat, right? And some months it kind of declined. And so we were like, for a couple months, we were like, when you're presidential and that happens, there's less urgency, truthfully. And so you're kind of like, okay, well, it's not growing, but it's still awesome. And then the maximizers in us are like, what the crap? Like, we're doing all the same things. Why is it not growing? And so we had our assistant go through and find every single share builder in our first 7 levels, right? Because our organization is pretty, it's built, without tons of gaps with qualifiers. So we went through and we said, who are the people that actually move the needle on our gross commissionable volume? And if you guys are not tracking your gross commissionable volume, it's in your PDF report. It's at at the end of the unilevel section. It gives you the number that you are paid on, the actual number that you are paid on every single month. So if our volume is 8 million, we actually only are paid on, I believe it is like 900,000, just so you guys know. Okay, so it doesn't matter what your overall volume, it matters what your gross commissionable volume is, period. And what really matters is who are the people that move that gross commissionable volume. Because although you love everyone, and although we're going to mastermind with all of you guys, and we're going to share all the secrets and everything that we know, if we want our income to grow, which is a major part of this, right, then we have to focus our effort on those people involved in the gross commissionable volume, right? And so each of us can do this. So we went through and we made a list of all of those people, if they were builders, sharers, or if they were customers, right? And you guys will find out, it doesn't take very long to do this. There is probably only about 45 people that were responsible, really, for the $900,000 in volume, right? And so my point is this: now that we knew who those 45 people were, we could actually start to game plan. What is their why? What type of program do they need? Do they need to take a break from the business, and do we just really need to focus on customers, right? Should we do something like an oil sample campaign with those people? What should we do? Now that we actually know who they are, what should we do? So that's what we started to do 2 years ago. And we saw our unilevel increase, not dramatically, but we saw it increase by about 10 to 15%. We saw leaders rank advance, and at least we knew what we were in control of, right? I think it's one thing if like every single month at the end of the month you look and you're like, oh my gosh, I worked really hard, I did this and I did that, and nothing changed, right? But when you know what your gross commissionable volume is, and you know who the people are that impact that, and you know what you did to help them, at least you can go back and say, you know what I was doing did not work. And that is the reason why my income did not change. So it puts you in control of knowing where you're going to go. Even if you're going backwards, you at least know, right? So I think that's super key for all of you guys. If you're not doing that, if you don't have an assistant, you can use our assistant to help you do it if you want to. But find out, go through. It's not very difficult to do. You can pull the reports in your back office. So the PDF, so if you look at your commissions report, in the PDF, you got to scroll a ways down. It could be like 50 pages down. But at the end of the unilevel section, before the power of 3, it will give you your gross commissionable volume, or it's like, I think it's gross commissionable, or it'll give you this bold number, right? Guys, this is so critical We've measured ours probably for the last 2 months, for the last 2 years, and our income is typically always between 10 and 15% of that gross commissionable volume. Okay, and sometimes our volume fluctuates, right? So our commissionable volume fluctuates, right? So then we can kind of, we know, we can predict exactly, and the months differ too, right? Some months a lot of people rank advanced, so pools will go down. So, but I just feel like if you don't feel like you have that control of your business, like you're steering this massive multi-million-dollar ship and you have no idea where it's going or who's helping you paddle. So one, I hope that all of you guys can do that, okay? The second thing that I want to talk about, we're not going to talk about oil studies, although they're really awesome. And we've learned a lot from them. I just want to talk to you guys about something that I feel like is very, very pertinent. And that, anybody have any questions before we move on and I try to wrap this up in 10 minutes? No? Okay, awesome. There's only a couple guys that I pay attention to when it comes to social media coaching online, period. Ray Higdon has some decent stuff, but Fraser Brooks is probably the one. He's from the UK. He is the one that just pushes value, just tons of value that works. And I'm not promoting him, or I'm just sharing you where I got this education from. It's free. It's on his podcast that I actually heard this episode. You guys can listen to it. But the episode was all about recruiting influencers. And he said what he did basically was, for the last year, he took 500 influencers who were not in network marketing across all, I mean, celebrities, fitness, cooking, everything, right? 500, some of them had 10,000 followers. Some of them had millions of followers. And he took them and he basically went through a series of questions over 12 months with them. And here's kind of what he found out, okay? And this is cool. And the reason why he took 500 is because when you get to the number 500, you're able to apply some of the big data stuff into it. I don't know if you guys know what I mean by big data, but if like you were to flip a quarter, 4 times, they'll let, you could get weird random odds, but if you were to flip a quarter, 100 times, the odds become more predictable. And so he took 500 because he wanted to apply it to the 9 million, what are called the 9 million influencers. There's roughly, in the data he took, about 9 million influencers, right? So he wanted to be able to apply this to them. And the first thing was this. So he researched them, and one of the first things he found was 92% of the influencers made no money, zero money. They were not profitable in their businesses. Now, some of them made a little bit of money, but a lot of them were paying for apps, software, social media marketers, managers, assistants, phones, tickets to beautiful locations. And they're basically break even, or some of them were losing money, right? So that was kind of the state of what he found. So 92% of the 500, so 460, earned little or nothing or were negative, right? And so sometimes we get caught up on having a lot of followers or being really influential on social media. And for the most part, unless you have something like doTERRA, unless you have some vehicle behind it, it's really a lot just for show. And so the other thing, so he said over 80% of influencers were not happy with where they were at simply because it was draining them. So the pictures of perfect plates of food or doing yoga poses, or for a lot of those people, it was draining them. And so he asked them a couple different questions. And he asked all 500 of them. And these were people, again, that had 10,000 followers up to 1 or 2 or 3 million followers, okay? How would you like to be approached? This is about network marketing. What the percentage would be. Want to test a product, check out the business, or to be sent a sample, right? So those were his 3 questions. 26% of them said, it's okay if somebody just DM'd me, right? So he was super surprised. He was like, wow, you guys wouldn't consider that like, you would actually respond to that? So obviously it's not super effective, but 26% of them were just like, hey, just send me a DM and we'll figure it out. 74% said if you were to just DM them, they wouldn't reply. So the majority of them said if you were just to DM them with no relationship with them, they wouldn't reply. And 100% obviously said if you were to send them some spam, like, hey, check out this link, none of them would reply, right? So this was super interesting. So he asked them, how would you like to be approached? What would give someone the absolute best chance to connect and approach with you, or connect and have you become a customer, get a sample, or look at the business? And this principle comes from Russell Brunson. I actually shared this principle with you guys, or with this Diamond group, probably about 2 years ago when he first talked about it. But it's called your Dream 100. And that's what he teaches it. And you basically look at all of the social media platforms that you want. We maybe pick 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but like, let's say it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, or whatever it is. And you find, let's say 20 to 50 top influencers that you want to speak to, right? Like, it could be different for every single one of us, but that you want to speak to in those categories. And then what you do is you become their top fans. So this is the difference. This is how you take the 74% and you get the 74% to respond. Okay. And Fraser talked about this, and I know people that have big followings, and Ange is really a great example here on this. But if somebody becomes your top fan, like if somebody starts liking your stuff, listening to your podcast, reviewing your podcast, taking a snapshot of your podcast, posting it on their Instagram, they start liking your stuff, commenting, they stand out to you. You know who they are. Fraser has a pretty big following, and he said, I know every single one of my top fans. I know them all. Like, they're always adding value to my stuff, right? They're always engaging with me. And so I know who they are. And so that's kind of the question for us as leaders. Can we take, if we have 50 of them, can we take a couple minutes each day or an hour each day, like their stuff, comment, put some emojis, tell them, give them a compliment, whatever it is, and become a top fan. So that was really, really important. And then he said, so if one of your top fans reached out to you and said, hey, thank you so much for the amazing podcast, or whatever it might be, would you reply? And they said the majority, he didn't have all the exact data on this, but he said the majority of those influencers said, yes, we would reply. We would say, hey, thanks. They would start to engage with them. And so this was like just an idea of something that he said. Over 80% said yes, actually. So it was like, hey, thank you so much for what you do. I've watched your lives, podcast. Just curious, would you be open to checking out a product if I were to send it to you? And 80% of them said yes. So this is just a sample, right? So we know that it doesn't mean that they're enrolled, that they're building the business or anything. It's just a sample. But 80% of that 74% said yes. And he said in this podcast that some of these people had millions of followers. Some of them were celebrities. Some of them were very, very influential people. And so, and the other thing is of that group, 50 to 60% said that they would be willing to post a product promotion in a story and promote the product, right? So I just, these things are super exciting to me, because sometimes we're at this place where maybe we don't feel like doing a bazillion classes or sampling to tons and tons of people. But if we could create a Dream 50 and we could leverage our time building relationships with those influential people who will promote us and swipe up to our Instagram profile or Facebook Live or website, like that's massive. So the fourth question he asked was, what if you were asked, would you be open to making money with your influence, right? And I realize we might word that a little bit differently. I'm just kind of taking exactly what he said. What if you were asked, would you be open to making money with your influence? 78% said yes to monetizing their influence, okay? I thought that was crazy. He said that the majority of them had never, ever been asked if they would be willing to introduce something to their audience that would deliver incredible results and allow them to make money. Okay. Number 5, let's see. Let me see if that was it. Okay. And then number 5 was the question, would you be open to checking out some information on how you can monetize your audience, or would you be open to checking out an additional income stream to monetize your audience? And swap out the word monetize for whatever is doTERRA, right, culture. But the point is, the majority of them said yes, right? And this was the point that I loved about this whole thing. Influencers, and for those of you guys who don't know, we spent a lot of time on the boat on the Danube talking about this new program that doTERRA wants to roll out for influencers. If you haven't heard about it yet, probably talk about it at convention or roll it out, where they want to create some sort of commission structure that's super simple but super engaging for influencers, right? doTERRA kind of wants to kind of be creative and find a way to go get those people. And so this is what I want you guys to remember from all of this. Influencers aren't going to reach out to you saying, hey, I watched your Facebook Live. I have 100,000 followers and I'd really love to join doTERRA and start promoting it to my entire team. Like that's not going to happen. You know, you have to be the initiator with those influencers. And so, man, when I heard all this, it was super empowering to me. Like, the statistics are in your favor. Like, building a relationship is what you have to do. In fact, I remember, Kirsten, when Emily Wright sent you that girl's, I forget her name or what she was selling, but she was like, hey, go get this girl signed up in doTERRA. She was like some big influencer. And, Kirsten was kind of like, didn't have a ton of time, but I don't know how much time you spent developing a relationship with her. But, if you can be patient and take weeks to become someone's top fan and to really add value to them, we know what it feels like to have somebody do that to us, right? And we can also tell when the agenda of that person is to promote something to us. So we're talking long play here, right? But a really, really powerful statistics and strategy that people can apply into their business. So real quickly, this study was done, how long ago? It was done in the last 12 months. So he just finished doing it. Yeah, you can listen, Fraser Brooks, I think it's called Ninja Networker on iTunes. There's an episode called Recruiting Influencers, and you can hear it straight from him. I'm just kind of repeating it because I thought it was amazing. Any questions about that? Okay. I loved it. The other part of that, guys, is, man, we could have a whole other, it's been an hour, and we could have a whole other call about, and maybe we should just start doing these more often. But we could have a whole other call about and there's a lot of people in doTERRA that do this well. Jenna Rammel does this really well. We have Ange is a great example. Even some of you, Jennifer, you guys do it well. Jules and Meredith, I've seen you guys do it really well with the whole mixology thing that you guys have done. But it is so powerful to have products that are not doTERRA, that are out in the marketplace solving your audience's problem, that bring you in to their world, right? Or your world. And then if you want to, on a podcast or in an email, you can say, oh, hey, by the way, a lot of people ask me what my core business is. If you'd like to work with me, go to this page and you can fill out an application, right? And, the only reason why, really one of the main reasons why I am so driven to create and do this stuff is so that our team has no obstacles to overcoming any of these issues. So there is, I don't really know how much I want to get into this, but I've spent a ton of.
You are prepared, and if they have to go, they have to go.
Yeah. If you have to go, you have to go.
Yeah,
okay. But I thought to myself, I was like, man, what could I create that I could duplicate, right? For free. Like, I don't care to charge you guys for whatever this is. Like, I just want to create tools that will solve problems. And so, one of the guys, and you have to always take the market, like guys like Steve Larson and ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson and all these guys, and you have to kind of put them through the doTERRA filter, right? Because they have really good ideas, but they are not creating the same culture that we are, right? And so that's what's really important and key about all these strategies, that we do it knowing the mission of doTERRA and like communicating that through our stories and our copy and our podcasts and everything that we do. And so one of the things that I think is one of the most effective things, and I can copy the whole thing. If you guys have a ClickFunnels account, I can copy the whole thing. If you don't want to, then you can also just do this outside of ClickFunnels. I just chose it because it gives me the ability to copy it into whatever, so you don't have to do any of the work. So I'm just going to show it to you. And if you want to create it doing whatever you want, you can. And all of this can be reworded too, right? So this is what Kirsten is doing with Power Mom. She wants to speak to the same target audience that she would use to be able to, sell oils to, right? Or empower people to use oils with. She wants to speak to that same audience, and that audience will engage with her, right? Through podcasts, through whatever it is. And some of you guys are already doing this. And then if people want to know what her business is, she can say, hey, go to powermomempire.com/work with Kirsten, and you can go through kind of a little interview process to see if it would be a good fit to work with me. I don't want to give all my resources, systems, and training to everyone. So I do want to make sure that you qualify for me to work with you. And then she just keeps on going into the podcast, right? She doesn't need to promote whatever doTERRA, whatever it is at that moment. She can still keep talking about whatever problem it is her audience is facing, and she can push them to this page on her site, okay? And so this is it's an application. And I know we hear the word funnel and we have whatever attachments associated. It's just a process to take people through, to qualify them to work with you, right? So how people come into your business, if they want to work with you in a business, is how they're going to work in your business. So if we're begging them to come in, then we're going to beg them to keep on working. If we make them qualify to come in because they want to be a part of what we're creating, then they will continue to, direct themselves. And so this is just, again, all of this, whether you guys look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, I could never do whatever it is. The cool thing is I've already done it for you. And literally with a click of a button, it goes into your account. And all you do is just change copy, change pictures, and the whole thing is done. Okay. And so if it's not something you want to do, the point is this, Laura Jacobs teaches a concept that I think is really critical. And it's I think she calls it like breaking down success. And anytime we hear people speak about something that they've done that's super successful, a lot of times we look at it and we're like, oh, I could never do that. Instead of first saying to ourselves, what is it that they're doing that I could do in my own way? So we don't let ourselves get shut down by what somebody else is really good at. We look at what somebody else is really good at and we say, how could I do that, right? And so you could do this really easily. You could do it in a Google Doc, right? You could just point people to a Google Doc that has it as a PDF that's tied to your Instagram that shows people, how they can work with you. And then you could use a Google form to have them fill out some stuff. So if that's what you want to do, awesome. But I would encourage you, as you guys are creating content, as you're talking about oils, that you have an application, that people can go to and say, hey, you can say, hey, and if you want to work with me and know what it's like to work on my team, go to this URL, fill out an application, and we can see if it's a good fit, right? So if this is something that interests you, I'm happy to take time personally outside of this and not take up our time today going through this. But the reason why I have chosen to use ClickFunnels to do this is they're easy to create, and I can duplicate this whole thing into your account, and you can do it on your own. So it's more about the duplication than it is anything else. So there's a couple of questions. I'm just going to look, and you can unmute yourself. Okay, cool. So Jennifer has one. Awesome. So I can copy the whole thing into it. So anyway, so I just kind of wanted to share those two things with you, right? Man, there's so much other good stuff, and I would love to have, there's many of you guys on this call that I'd love to, you're experts in this, I'm just kind of learning and applying. So you've seen this, further rolled out further down the road than I have. But any questions before we stop talking and we see each other all at convention? Or any remaining thoughts? I mean, I guess the most important one is, did you get something out of us all being together? And should we do this each month, or should we kind of rally everyone and bring them in closer? Okay, cool. All right, well, there's a couple of you guys I can't see. Mel and Conchetta and Ange, I can't see you guys, and so totally cool. I know there's other stuff going on. I would appreciate it if you at least put up a really nice picture like Melina's, so that when you are muted, we pretend. Anyway,
put it on your to-do list.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling into gathering the small group again together and providing this space. So whoever wants to join us every month, I am fully confident. I still even am thinking of stuff that I want to share and new ideas. And I want to encourage you guys. I really like, Kyle, the way that you encouraged everybody to speak up with a solution. That was super helpful. I felt like I really learned from you guys today. So thank you for your new ideas. And I'm definitely excited to be implementing a lot of them. We're excited to see you all at convention. I know it's going to be massive and so many things going on with all of you and your amazing teams. But we look forward to connecting with you. I am just going to announce it because all of these guys are invited. So we are doing a small gathering. It's going to be on Friday. So I know most of you, the team party night is Thursday, but Friday afterwards, we're going to do a meditate and mingle event at the Grand America Hotel. And so we have this is so mellow, you guys. Please come in your pajamas. You will see, you know what I mean? It is not, do not think anyone has to stand up and be any certain way. You could just not even mingle. You could just meditate the whole time. But we're setting up a space that will be peaceful and relaxing. We have some special guests coming to do some meditations with us, and we'll be doing some intention setting, but it's a high level group of people. So if you get an invitation, then you're invited. And I'm so sorry because actually, no, I'm the relator and Kyle's the includer. So Kyle, as number one strength, everyone's invited. I'm Kyle, that's 1,000 people. I'm sorry. It has to be a way for us to really be able to pour into our leaders who, we know are the ones that really need, and you guys are going to pour into all of your people too. So please know it's hard to not invite everyone, but at the same time, it's going to be a really special, intimate thing where we want to celebrate you guys. So look out for those save the dates from Julianne, our assistant, and hopefully see you there. Thanks again for being on, you guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
So much.
Yep, you bet. All right.